everybody, and welcome back to the Sim1 podcast. It's great to be back here, delivering all your news around the F1 Sim Racing World Championship and, of course, the league racing scene as well in terms of its top flight. I am back with my esteemed panel. My name is, of course, George Morgan, your host here. Alongside me, though, we do have, of course, Ryan Jacobs, reigning PSGL F4 champion, and Tino Naukkarinen, of course, Williams and Red Bull Sim racing driver from years gone by. Great to have you back, boys. Ryan, first of all, how are things with you?
Yeah, doing great. It's great to be back for another episode. And again, thank you to everybody who's been watching and listening and enjoying the podcast so far.
Absolutely. We do appreciate every single one of you, just like Tino does as well. How are things with you, Tino?
All good. Sunny Finland and getting a bit warmer. And I'm surprised Ryan didn't mention his PSGL championship again.
I'm doing it for him, so he doesn't have to do it.
Yeah,
okay.
He's keeping me humble, Tino. That's what he's doing.
Okay.
I'll pay him before the episode, so he has to mention it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Jacobs. But yeah, no, absolutely right. Well, listen, boys, it's getting tense, isn't it, in the world of the F1 Sim Racing World Championship? Looking at the championship standings right now, Otis Lawrence top of the tree after a stellar end to to the end of event 2. Absolutely phenomenal job. 3 consecutive pole positions. We were all questioning when the win was coming. Eventually it did. Then Jarno Opmeer in second place. It's very tight at the top between those two. Ismail Fassi bouncing back with Ferrari as well. Freddie Rasmussen, Nico Longate as well. You're not going to get a better top 5 than that, Ryan.
No, I don't think you are. I think for those names, I think when you looked at that before the season started, you probably tipped those 5 to be in the top 5. I think the only other name you'd probably add to that is Barry, and obviously it's been unfortunate circumstances so far that he hasn't been able to compete. But that would be the only name I'd add to the list of the 6 that you probably maybe see fighting for this championship this season, just due to the pace that you saw in PSGL before the season begun. And it's been really fascinating to see. And Longay obviously went from P3 to P5 this event, so it's kind of crazy that, you know, if you have one bad event, you drop down that order and you lose that grip on the championship. So you cannot afford to have one bad event, or other drivers will punish you. And you know, it's still all up for grabs. I don't think anybody has that edge yet. They can maybe afford a bad round. I don't think anybody in that top 5 from now on can afford a single bad race, and every point scored will be absolutely critical now.
Absolutely massive indeed. And indeed, it was a big event for Ismail Fassi as well. Tino, of course, stepping up at Barcelona, first ever Spanish Grand Prix in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship. And of course, it is home to Ismail Fassi as well. And it meant a great deal to him. There was clear emotion there. They've been going through a really tough time with there being no Barry Burraman due to outworldly situations, of course, conflicts across the globe. And aside from that, with Fassi coming in after the double DNF at Jeddah, which saw both he and his teammate John Evans barrel out of the race, to come back from adversity like that and then to take a highly emotional win with damage really spoke volumes.
Yeah, I mean, there was 2 special things, like especially after the bad Jeddah, like to win the race. It's nice, very nice comeback, and then especially it's as when it's your home track, like that is probably very special. Like I can imagine. Well, I can't really imagine, because there is not a Finnish Grand Prix in esports or real version, so I can't really imagine. But yeah, well, they've probably been there like in person, watching all the races in past few years, and now they'll be able to win in virtual one. I can imagine it's special. But yeah, especially with the run of form, like that helps a lot in like motivation and stuff like that. That you can actually still compete for the race wins when you get it right.
No, of course, you're absolutely spot on. I think it does really help your momentum, I think, coming off the back of a big victory in a prior event. And the next event we are going to be looking at, by the way, folks, Belgium, Netherlands, and of course, Texas. We go stateside, basically to Austin, Texas, and certainly a great haven for F1 sim racing as well. I'm going to kick things off with Spa, though, Ryan. This has been very much the home of Alfie Butcher over the last couple of seasons. But, I mean, Barry Burraman, going back to Ferrari, of course. Barry, who was, of course, won at Spa before. They're going to be calling upon Ismail Fassi to do the business again, aren't they?
Yeah, they will, and I think John will be playing as that like anchor and just protecting Ismail in that regards. I think that will be the goal. I've seen Ismail in PSGL do some mega laps around here, so he's definitely got the pace to compete for pole position. I think, if I'm not wrong, he might have just beat Otis to pole in PSGL, or it might have been the other way around. It was so close. I think it was literally just one corner, which separated it. I think Carson did a really good video on it. You can watch a side-by-side comparison. So that's a free shout out for Carson. He'll be happy with that. And it's a really good video. It shows you just the difference between the two and the driving style as well. So I highly recommend watching it. And I think Ismail will be feeling confident or coming around here, especially just with the form that he had at Spain. I think he'll be looking to build on that. I know the strategy that they will probably go for will be that hard medium as well. But I think as well, if I remember you just saying before the episode, which we've recorded now, George, is that it's been kind of a back-to-back winner around Spa, which is quite an interesting thing. So maybe it's Alfie's track to win here.
But equally, could it be Alpine's, Tino? Because Danny Berejnet, twice a former winner, back-to-back, was actually, if we go back to the records from 2018, 2019, it was Danny's haven. He went from lights to flag on both occasions. He's with Alpine now alongside Otis Lawrence, who is our current championship leader. Is this an opportunity for the Enstone team?
Yeah, for sure. Like I still remember, like from the 2018-19 days, like when talking about, like thinking about Spa, you always knew that Berejnet will be there at the front. Like it was, I mean, it's still his favorite track, but like back in the days, he was like for sure like the quickest there, and it showed in the results as well. And he probably hasn't lost the spark there, but maybe others have came closer to him. But it's nice that like Otis will for sure be there at the front, and then if you have Danny, that like I don't know, like 2019 Danny there with you and front. I mean, it's pretty dangerous team that Alpine has. I mean, yeah, like but to be fair, one thing actually came to my mind when I'm thinking about this Danny Berejnet and Alpine thing. Like, have you guys realized how many different teams Danny has been racing against Red Bull? Like he was in the original Mercedes in 2018.
Alfa Romeo.
Okay. Yeah, fighting for the championship against Red Bull there as well. Then Mercedes.
Yeah.
And now Alpine. Like I think it's actually an interesting story, like how he's been fighting against Red Bull in constructors with 3 or 4 different teams. Like, he seems to be like seems like that. I mean, I don't think he thinks it like that, but looking at it,
he's had more clubs than Tiger Woods, isn't he? Really, Ryan? What do you think?
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting fact actually. When you think about it, it's a really good point there from Tino. It's like he's been a nail in the thorn, isn't it? It's if that's the right saying, off Red Bull. He's always
thorn in the side.
Been that. That's the one, thorn in the side. That was it. Thank you, George. I was just thinking, it was like, yeah, he's always there competing in the constructors, helping out the team, and it's like, yeah, I think Red Bull secretly must despise Danny Berejnet because he's always just
he's like kryptonite.
Taking points.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, it's really interesting. So yeah, maybe he can be another guy who can add another constructors to his championship by. With being at Alpine, I think definitely he'll be up there in the top 5 for qualifying, in my opinion. Anything less, I think he'll be disappointed with that. And again, that will be such a huge benefit for Otis if he is able to qualify in the top 5, because then he knows he can have that guide to protect him and make his race a lot easier.
Yeah, no question. I think he's definitely going to be a threat, but there may also be a threat from the McLaren camp. Now, McLaren have done well in the past through the course of an event such as this. Obviously, we look back to Barry, who's pulled out great efforts in the past. Of course, he would win back in 2022 with McLaren. Alfie Butcher has done it most recently as of last season, Tino. They've got some good drivers with Butcher returning and with Jake Benham now alongside him. And I must say, Benham impressing with podiums for himself this season so far, and most notably also a podium at Zandvoort a year or so ago, or a couple of years ago, I do apologise. If he comes back with McLaren again alongside Alfie, that they could be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I mean, Alfie has won it last year, so he seems very strong here, and Jake is very fast, but he seems to be quite inconsistent. Like he can be there at the front, and then next day he's out in Q1. So it all depends what Jake we get. But these 3 tracks should suit Jake very well. Like So like you said, Zandvoort podium, and I don't think he's been a podium for Kota, but for sure fighting there at the front at some year. But yeah, I think, and McLaren is in that kind of situation where they're not quite in that championship fight. You don't expect them to be like at the front, so they have that surprise element. Like they're in pretty good situation. Like you don't expect them to be like winning, but they can still do it. So, and yeah, why not?
They're going to be manifesting some of those Lucas Blakely moments, I think, from 2022, obviously through Alfie and Jake, but certainly two drivers that are very, very talented. What do you make for Red Bull's chances, though, coming into Spa, Ryan?
Yeah, I think they'll be feeling confident as well with Freddie winning in the past as well. So I don't think it's going to be like a lacking of confidence off this circuit. I think they always do pretty well, Red Bull. And again, it seems to me that they kind of like these high-speed tracks. I think if you cast your mind back to PSGL, Jarno had one of the strongest wins on the game with that strategy where he did do the hard medium and he won by a couple of seconds, which caught everybody by surprise. I think that will be the strategy. Obviously, people will be trying to copy because ever since that Jarno did do that, everybody has done that same strategy since in all tiers of racing, and it's quite funny to see when the strategy works that strongly, others will try and copy that. So yeah, I think Jarno would feel confident around here, and definitely Freddie. So again, this is one of those circuits where it could kind of be anyone to take pole and take the win, and it's always a track which has kind of delivered quite exciting racing. So hopefully it can, but whenever we've said it's going to be an exciting race, it kind of does the opposite. Whereas if it's a boring track like we thought Spain would be, it delivered one of the best races of the season. So you never know what could happen here.
It can
That's
come,
actually interesting.
Yeah, definitely. It comes when you least expect it, doesn't it, really, I suppose. But yeah, fascinating stuff. And equally, it's going to be fascinating when we head to Zandvoort as well, Tino. Obviously, a track that's very complex in many ways, but we've seen some great winners in the past. And weather has been known to change around that circuit as well.
Yeah, like first thing what comes to my mind is the Longet thing. I don't want to remind him about this.
No. The tyre change issues that, of course, they sustained. I think over. I was in commentary for the first time it happened. That was back. That was in 23-24, and I mean, Claire Cottingham was there interviewing him after the race, and the emotion was clear to see. But that's who Nico is. You know, he's an emotional guy. You'll be hoping that he can put that behind him, though. That now he's at Williams, though, right?
Yeah, and 24, I think he did. But 24 was full rain race, I think. So yeah, the weather has been playing a part there. And I was thinking like when you mentioned like the different winners, like Ron Harvin won there, right? And Jarno has won there, and so it's not like not one guy has been dominating the track. So it definitely can be interesting. And yeah, the weather plays big part.
Well, I mean, we've already seen drivers win their home races, obviously with Ismail Fassi winning at Barcelona. We've seen Dutch magic in Zandvoort before as well, Ryan. Do you think there'll be some more?
Yeah, I think this is one of those circuits where it could be another home Grand Prix victory. You know, you got Jarno and Thomas on there who will definitely be itching to win it. I think if Thomas can win it, that would be huge for his championship. And it'd be really, really big points for Mercedes in that regard. And if he did win it, he currently sits 8th at the minute. And he could just propel himself into that maybe top 6 area and really battle out with Alfie and Azildrim. And, you know, those points would really benefit Mercedes, who sits 7th in the championship at the minute. So, again, it's not a place you ever really expect to see Mercedes so low down in the constructors. So I think if there's one person who would probably maybe win around there, it could be Thomas, just because of his pace and his qualifying. And again, that will be a crucial thing. Although I say that, qualifying hasn't been so great for Thomas at the minute. Only Silverstone, I think, has been his best qualifying so far, getting second. And I think if he was able to qualify there again, I think he'd maybe hope for some rain. But again, if I would love to see a changeable condition race, because that would be really, really interesting, because then the strategy would be really fascinating to see what teams do, how they play it, because the rain can be quite interesting on this game, where it goes either dries super quick or it takes quite a while. There's like no in between really. So yeah, I'll be fascinated to see if we can get that kind of interchangeable condition, because then we won't have a set in stone strategy, and I think teams will try different things. So
I mean,
in my opinion, I hope it does that.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
look,
I have one thing to say about the changing weather race.
yeah,
Which,
yeah, absolutely.
like some people don't even notice this, but like, because the grid is so close, like the double stacks, you can't really double stack. So that actually like gives you already like different crazes there. Like if let's say like
Yes.
Otis is leading and Danny will be like P4. Like does he go extra lap or does he pit with Otis and lose 10 positions? Like it's those kind of things are like why the changing weather races are actually interesting as well for me.
Yeah, and
Yes.
and that could be a quite a significant thing, I think, for this race. Obviously, when we factor in the idea that qualifying is everything around Zandvoort, if we look at the records, Ryan, you're absolutely right. Thomas Ronhaar not qualifying so well this season. Jarno Opmeer doesn't tend to qualify well. Everything he does is from a strategy standpoint. The one man you really look at where it comes down to qualifying at the moment is Otis Lawrence, especially after what we saw in Event 2. So do you think Alpine see this as a great opportunity at Zandvoort if there is no rain?
Yeah, 100%. They'll see this as a potential pole to victory circuit, to be honest, because Zandvoort again is one of those tracks where it's so difficult to overtake at. And I said this for Spain, and we saw plenty of bloody overtaking and drama there. So if I say the same thing again, maybe luck will strike twice, and we'll have one of the most dramatic races of all time. And I think we could see quite an interesting variation of the strategy as well. I think we could see maybe a couple of soft runners, but again, it's one of those tracks where the tires do kill quite easily. So it would be quite interesting to see if somebody went for that. Because I think it would definitely be a possibility. I don't think you would see any DRS chicken around Zandvoort, because it would be too silly to do it on a banking and all that. And I know it's a little bit further back this time, but yeah, it'd be suicide for any driver to try it. So yeah, it would be to me, it'd be quite interesting to see what happens. But yeah, I think Alpine will be circling this one as a safety one, if that makes sense. Where if we get pole, we should win this. Because again, the overtaking's just so hard. You have to be the second car in any train to have any chance of overtaking.
That's probably what they don't in Jeddah.
True, yeah.
Very likely, which is why I think Otis hit him a little bit hard. Obviously, the Opmeer strategy did pan out, because if it hadn't panned out, then Otis would have gone on to win the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. What do we make of Ismail Fassi's chances ahead of this one? Obviously, they haven't got Barry again, and this is again a track where Barry has been successful at in the past. Is that a big miss for Ferrari, Ryan, in that sense, or do you think Fassi's got enough to do something here?
I think Fassi's got enough. I think he's shown that this season, but it's a matter of can he keep his cool, because we've seen him lose his composure at Bahrain this season, where we saw him just turn into a Ferrari torpedo. So if he can just keep that, cool level head, he can win races, and he's done that this season at Spain. And that was a mature drive from him. He was willing to take risks, dive it down the inside, put his points on the line, and it paid off because he got the win and got ahead of Josh Edu. So, yeah, it's an interesting one for Ismail. I think he can win it. I think again maybe his teammate John will play a big part in that, in my opinion. Again, so will the second driver play a big role? And again, the weather will be an interesting one. I don't think. You know what Tino said earlier about the double stacking, he won't have to worry about that. He will have priority no matter what. I think Red Bull will have a tough question with that. Will they prioritize Jarno or Freddie in that regard? I think they would probably go Jarno. You have probably got slight priority just because you are currently second in the championship. It's a really interesting thing, and this Zandvoort race really could be much more significant than we realise.
Yeah, I was going to say, because we've been talking about Freddie's situation really in terms of his championship quest. Do you think, Tino, they've now decided whether Freddie is a championship contender anymore or not? Do you think there's been that level of discussion? Because they were quite clear at the start of the season. I think Freddie in an interview came out and said that they had turned around and decided beforehand, right, this is we're going to be pushing Jarno for the for this season. Freddie, do everything you can to help him. Do you think they've already made that decision ahead of Event 3?
I don't think so, because Freddie is only 11 points behind Jarno. like you can't make that decision. Like just one bad race for Jarno and one good race for Freddie, and now then Freddie will have the priority. But
Yes.
So
I think last year was
it's a
last
critical
year
event.
was,
It's a critical event, though, right?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But like Freddie start very slow last year. He had like not many points after event 1, and Jarno was leading, so it was quite clear back then, like last year event 1. But now they both be like they both have a chance, so you can't really like prioritize yet either one. But I think Freddie is pretty good at that role already, like thinking that I will just play second fiddle here and help Jarno, but he shouldn't be thinking like that yet. But yeah, I think he's learned from Marcel in 2020 and 21 to be how to be a perfect second driver.
Yeah, well, I was about to say he's probably the most democratic driver on the grid, I'd imagine, in terms of working with a teammate. Obviously, this does lead in to the next race that we need to talk about, which is Texas as well. And it has been a stomping ground for Jan Opmeer in the past. Of course, a former winner himself. There's been Dutch magic with Thomas Ronhaar again. So moving from Zandvoort to Texas, generally it has been a Dutch stomping ground. What do you make of this one, Ryan?
Yeah, I kind of like Koto. It's like one of those tracks that I used to like on the old games, just because I was actually quite good at it. And I've been all right on this game, I will say, not too bad. But yeah, it's one of those tracks where it does invite overtaking because of the strategy involved. Again, I think it's been one of those more exciting races on the F1 Esports sim racing calendar as well. So yeah, I think that Jarno will be feeling confident coming into this one, because again, it will be a strategy heavy dependent race. I don't think qualifying's the be all end all here. But I do think it plays a very big role, because again, it is pretty hard, because again, teams will be running such low wing around here to try and have any chance of trying to overtake, but you've got to have that balance for sector 1 to not be too high as well, or too low, sorry, where you lose so much time in sector 1 that you're nowhere near close enough to overtake on that main straight. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one. Jarno will feel confident. Freddie has won in the past as well. Thomas, yeah, again, if Thomas can do back to back, that would be quite a significant result for him and Mercedes. So yeah, I think this one is up in the air for anybody who could win it as well, just like Zandvoort.
Yeah, no, I think it's quite significant in the sense that I think for Alpine, we go from a circuit such as Zandvoort, where qualifying is absolutely paramount, to a circuit such as Texas, which very much has a strategic aura about it. Do you think that this is the round that will see perhaps Alpine fall foul in this event, Tino?
Probably, yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, it's there's so many teams who can like succeed, but like one thing I have to say about Alpine is that now when they saw that Josh can also do the job, so it's maybe they've already put like just the practice quota or something like that, and then Danny just does the Benelux races.
So would you swap Josh Ido in for Berejnay, or as in replace Berejnay with Josh Ido ahead of the American race?
Oh, it all depends. Like, this is the thing we can't know how they're feeling in practice, but like I've been in that situation as well, like where you just practice one race for whole 3 weeks or 2 weeks, what they have the practice time, and I mean, it's a crazy pressure that you only race one race, and that's like you kind of like special track. But it also helps that, because like all these drivers who do like full season, like Jarno and Otis, and like for sure they can't have 100% focus on all 3 tracks in every event. It's impossible to have like, you have a limited practice time. So like the extra like 20, 30 hours you have compared to them, it can be very important. Like, and that's the asset now what Alpine has with Josh compared to like Red Bull, for example.
Yeah, do you think that Ryan, that Red Bull will identify this as a must-win opportunity, and ideally probably a Jarno Opmeer must-win opportunity?
Yeah, I think definitely. I wouldn't say it's probably just for Jarno. I think it'd be either driver, depending on what happens in the 2 races beforehand. If it's more Freddie, in the lead, then they'll probably go, Freddie, you got to make sure you try and win this. You never know if Jarno has a terrible event, he might drop down the order, and they're like, right, now we got to go with Freddie. You never know. So, yeah, I think it's a really interesting point that Tino brings up there about the third driver, and Red Bull can't really do that. And
No
why
Seb
would they when
Job.
they have two?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And why would they, to be honest, when they've got two bloody stars who are world champions? I don't think they need to do that. Whereas Josh, I think, can really deliver that. I think he's proven that now at Spain. Can he do it again? I think he can at Kota. I think it's a really good suggestion there, because if he's able to do that and put himself P3, that would be really fascinating. Because again, it does look like it is a two-way fight for this constructors at the minute, unless Williams have a really big event and really claw that gap back. But I think, unfortunately for them, they don't have really the second driver to help out Longue this season, just due to the results. So yeah, it's going to be really important that Red Bull have a good round, and I think they'll want to end it on a high, unlike Silverstone, where Jarno scored just barely any points, and I mean Freddie finished it on a high, to be fair, with the third place, but they want more than that, and they want to extend that lead in the championship as much as possible. So yeah, it's going to be a really fascinating one. I think Longue is definitely one to keep an eye out on as well. I think this is a really significant event for him, and he could surprise us with maybe a win or two here.
Well, it definitely seems to me that I'm not sure whether you'd agree with me on this, Ryan, that Spa and Zandvoort will be two significant races in terms of what teams decide to do ahead of Texas.
Yeah, I fully agree with you on that. I think it's pretty obvious. Alpine have got the priority with Otis, no matter what. They want him to win the drivers, and that's fair enough. And then you've got a Red Bull situation, which is going to get tougher and tougher, because if both of them are neck and neck all the way in these next two races, it's going to be really interesting how they decide it. Because if there's an interchanging race, like Tino says, how are they going to prioritize who pits first? Is it literally going to be, the weather, how quick the weather's changing and who's first? Or are they going to just gamble and go, right, the guy who's furthest behind has to pit first, put it on earlier, take a bit of hardship on the worst, where it's maybe drying up a bit slower, but then you don't lose maybe as many places or something. I don't know. It's a really interesting thing to think about. And yeah, I think Red Bull will have a tough scenario to think about, because Ferrari and Williams don't have that situation to play with. They've got Ismail to be priority for the drivers' championship, and same with Nico for Williams. So they're the only team that really have to really think about this situation.
Yeah, quite a complex one as well. In terms of how this track sort of rewards, we talked about running a low wing setup. Generally, we would see that probably, Tino, in response to the long straight that you have coming out of the first sector down through towards the, through the middle sector, heading in towards the latter sector, and plus you've got the home straight as well. But you cannot forget about the elevation change rise inside that first sector going up to turn one as well, because you automatically turn back on yourself, don't you? And then you've got the weaving almost Maggots and Beckett style series of lefts and rights. You really need to put in a lot of prep, I'd imagine, in terms of how you approach this race.
I don't think it's even low downforce track. Like I remember when I was practicing or like driving it, I think you put like almost as much downforce as you would like for a street track, just because of the first and last sector. But back in my time when I was driving, the tire temps was much bigger issue. So that's why the wings were has to be so high. But it's a fascinating track. Like if you have low wings, then you gain in the back straight. But then it's very hard to stay close. And then vice versa, obviously, if you have high wings, then you can stay close, but then you have no straight line speed. So it can be interesting actually. I think Jarno been like in previously quite low with the wings, so he can overtake with these alternative strategies. But yeah, it's interesting. Like there's no like best. I don't think there's like a set wings like compared to like Silverstone that you have to run this. Basically.
Yes.
Yeah. But then there's also like the whole event is quite interesting, because then Spa is very low downforce, and then you have Zandvoort, which is basically max wings. So
it's a bit like Kota's in the middle, isn't it? In that way, then Tino, because you've got to have like low, but you also have to be high as well.
Yeah.
And it is like that kind of mix. You've got to find that perfect sweet spot. And I think it'll be interesting to see if one team goes a little bit lower and if it affects them in that first sector, but then there'll be a rocket ship on the straight. So I think we saw that at Bahrain. I think Thomas was a bit too high on the wing, so he couldn't actually overtake Ruben because he was so quick on a straight line. So I think the setups will actually quite vary in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to
Yeah, I
be.
believe so.
I mean, it's going to be compelling. I think either way, in terms of, I mean, it's going to be a team that strikes the right balance. I mean, we're talking about setup, we're talking about strategy, and yet we don't know if the rain's going to fall, Tino. I mean, anything can really happen at Texas.
Yeah, there has been rain races, and
Yeah.
most famously the 2022 where there was the True Goes Opmeer moment.
Yeah,
last
yeah,
lap.
yeah. I mean, that was stunning. I mean, that sort of those conditions sort of play into Jarno's hands, do they not?
Yeah, he just seems to be very good at changing conditions. Like he knows always when is the best chance to change the tires. And yeah, I think that's why he was asking for that in Silverstone. he didn't get it. It was full rain race. So I don't know. If it rains, then I mean, depends where he qualifies. Let's be real. Like, okay, I can't really. You can't really count Jarno out if it's changing condition race. Even though if he starts P14, famously won China race where.
Yeah. It doesn't matter where he starts. Ultimately, I think generally from time to time, I mean, Jarno has a capability of even turning the slightest chance into. Almost becoming the odds-on favourite. We saw a little bit of that at Jeddah, didn't we, with the decisive strategy that he took, which many people were taken by surprise on, but it certainly, as far as he was concerned, it wasn't a surprise to him. But we'll obviously now talk about... I'd like to throw out predictions, gentlemen, if that's okay. I'm going to throw you all under the bus. Ryan, kicking things off at Spa, who do you think lays claim to the victory?
Ooh, that's a tough one. That is a really, really tough one because I feel like it's four people in my mind. Just thinking now, I feel like it's Beresne, Otis, Jarno, and I think Fassi are my four. But I'm gonna go with Otis for Spa. I think he's gonna win it.
Do you agree, Tino?
Spa.
Do you think it's Otis as well?
No, it's gonna be Fassi.
Ismail Fassi, big call there from Tino Naukkarinen and Ferrari. Looking to come back into the winner's circle. Will it be the same at Zandvoort though, Ryan?
No, I think it'll be different there. I feel like Otis might get pulled, but I'm kind of contradicting myself what I said earlier in the position in the podcast. But I feel like something might happen. I'm going to go with Jarno winning that one. I think Jarno's going to win his home Grand Prix.
Jarno returning to victory at his home race. Tino, do you think it's going to be Dutch domination again, or do you think Otis can win around a qualifying-centric track?
Dutch domination, yes, but different driver. So Ronhard takes it.
Oh, okay. It's spicy. Can you imagine if those two are wheel to wheel? Extraordinary. Moving through to Texas, Ryan, who wins that one?
I'm going to go with Nicholas Longe. I've got full faith in that man to win it. He can't let me down this time.
Will it be a win for Grove, or do you see it going somewhere else, Tino?
It's too easy to call Jarno Otis, so I say Freddie wins this one.
Wow.
Okay. I don't want to be I don't want to take the easiest picks.
We're going
full on wild shade there.
Incredible, sensational. Well, of course, if you're listening in as well, folks, and you want to lay down your predictions as well, that's what comment sections are for. Let us know your thoughts as to who's going to lay claim to the victories at those three tracks. Of course, we're all looking forward to seeing how Event 3 rolls out, and it will play a significant role, I'm sure, in where that Drivers and Teams Championship title, those Teams and Drivers Championship titles go. In the meantime, we want to touch as well on the hardware around F1 sim racing, and Fanatec have unveiled some new equipment as well for you to get involved with or purchase and maybe update or upgrade your rig. Ryan, what have you made of it? They've got a new wheel on the market and new pedals as well.
Yeah, the pedals I think are the biggest eye attention that I've seen on some pedals in a very long time. I mean, I've still got my CSL Elite ones from 2021 or something like that. I think it's actually 2020. So they've lasted me 5 years, and I think now's probably a good time to upgrade them, as I've had a few little issues, but I've looked after them so well, and these new pedals are really interesting. They've got a 3-pedal set and a 2-pedal set, both at the same price. They've got a little bit different designs, whereas the 2 pedals got like a heel cup and they've got a wraparound faceplate, which is quite interesting to lock your feet in place. And then the other one has got more of a plate-based style, which I currently use. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting, but they are much more like advanced and stiffer, and I think that's going to be a really interesting one to see what these drivers think about it. I heard some really good feedback from people who tested it out in Germany. I believe it's at the Sim Racing Expo, if I'm not wrong, where they host those annual sim events, and Fanatec revealed it all the way back then. They will be coming out in July, I believe. So if people want to get pre-ordering them, it's going to cost you around €699. So it's going to be a premium product, but with this premium like price, you get a long-lasting product. Usually, from what I've experienced, and I'm sure Tino can also back that up as well with his experience with Fanatec as well.
I was about to say, because obviously, Tino, you've spent a great deal of time around Fanatec equipment. Of course, they are partners of the F1 Sim Racing World Championship. In fact, they announced at the very start of the campaign that they were renewing their partnership with the F1 Sim Racing World Championship. But seeing as you've competed in the series, you've had a long-standing relationship with your Fanatec equipment.
Yeah, I still have my 2019 and 2020 equipment still working. The other one is just a backup, and yeah, no issues so far. So what, 6 or 7 years working fine, like Fanatec like hardware. So it might sound harsh, like €700 for a wheelbase or rim or like, but it's like go together. But like, I would say it's worth it. And not have to say like about Fanatec when I was racing, like there was like a support channel and stuff like that. It didn't take long from them to like come help you, and like if you had some problems with hardware, and if you had some problems, they will just send you new ones, and they will ask like what was the problem, and then work for the next version to have it better. And they actually listen like the feedback and stuff. So I think now we're coming up to the equipment is starting to become like very, very good. Like no one can anymore complain about FFP or how the brake feels or how the throttle feels. Like you can change all basically now.
Yeah, I mean, I've still got my McLaren GT3 Fanatec rim with my CSL DD, which gets me through. Obviously, I do a lot of GT3 racing on, for instance, Le Mans Ultimate, etc. Obviously, with Fanatec having that partnership with the F1 Sim Racing World Championship, it is invaluable. And like you've so rightly said, Tino, the drivers weighing in with their own experiences using the products, giving their feedback. Clearly, Fanatec are gladly happy to oblige and listen and improve. Would you say that makes that partnership all the more vital, not just for Formula One, but also for Fanatec themselves?
Yeah, like so many people watch the series, obviously, and I think mainly like if you see Jarno or Beresne using and them Fanatec stuff, then you get more like a exposure. Yeah, that's the word. And okay, there has been maybe cases quite a few years ago where they broke or something like that, but they always said that you have different like wrong sponges or something like that in your brake or something, so that's why they're breaking. But yeah, I think it's good. Like when you think about sim racing equipment in F1 sim racing, you always know it's Fanatec, and vice versa, like Fanatec together with F1. Like I can't really think it in any other equipment, but maybe in future, never know. I don't think so, but
well, it wasn't long ago that they were incidentally, obviously sponsoring the GT World Challenge Europe as well. At one time, they were the title sponsor ahead of that series. But obviously now they're flourishing again, obviously with new ownership, etc., and clearly going from strength to strength. So we look forward to hearing. Maybe you have some feedback yourselves, folks at home listening to this podcast, as to how the Fanatec equipment is working for you. Obviously, they're not partners of us, but we just thought it was necessary to talk about
yet.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, maybe in the future. We'll see. Maybe we'll be the Fanatec Sim1 podcast. Who knows? We'll find out in due course. But, folks, that is pretty much it from all of us here on the show. Do not hesitate, mind, to lay down your thoughts and comments for everything we discussed, all the topics that we have brought up through the course of this show. You can, of course, check us out on social media at Sim1 Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter as well, or X as it's now known, and indeed YouTube. Spotify, of course, is where you can also find the show. That is also where it's uploaded. If you want to check us out, of course you can. Ryan, where can they find you, sir?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. There's no point me trying to even read out my name on there, man. There's too many underscores, but yeah, it's just Ryan99 with a load of underscores in between on Twitter.
If you can find him, we'll give you. Well, you can give yourself a pat on the back. In terms of Tino, where can they find you, good sir?
Same platforms, Instagram and X, and yeah, just my name. So that's it.
Ryan could do with taking a leaf out of your book, Tino. It has to be said. You can also find me at George Morgan TV on Twitter, Instagram, and of course TikTok as well, folks. It has been an absolute pleasure bringing you this latest episode of the Sim1 podcast. Enjoy Event 3, because we will be. But until next time, folks, it's goodbye.